Troubadour Theater in Nashville, Tennessee.
Hey there, it's Brian Sebastian, movie reviews and more, and obviously we're streaming live in Nashville, Tennessee at Country Box. Didn't plan on this happening because it was all about Tony and the director, but you know what? We're making it work. So here's the thing about this. Aurelia, you will know her because her dad is world famous. Have you ever heard of Manuel and making everything up, clothing and everything like that? That's what he does. Obviously from Nashville, actually Brentwood, Tennessee is Howard Wiggins. So Howard's over there. He's not too far from us, wherever he may be. And Tony and Andrew, this is all about you. Let's talk about what you guys are doing because what you've done in your career is phenomenal. Let's talk about that. Andrew, let's start with you.
Oh, wow. Well, it certainly sounds like a party. So thank you for starting it up with us. So we are here to talk about Tony Pearson, Driven, the Tony Pearson story, the brand new documentary, literally landing this Friday, October 6th. And it's been about a 2.5-year journey for me, just dedicating my life to making sure that this story gets told, that, you know, we do justice to this whole story. And it's an incredible story of Tony, who is here on the show. And how he came to be, essentially, you know. So there's the story about how he was a bodybuilder, and that's a big part of the story. However, the big thing that I like to tell people is it's not just a bodybuilding story. You know, you don't have to be into the sport of bodybuilding. You don't have to know anything about bodybuilding. Anybody can pick up this movie and just find it engaging. They can find a piece of themselves in Tony in this documentary.
So Tony, talk about this. What is it like to be where you are right now? You, just in that body where you are right now, because you're an inspiration to a lot of people around the world.
Yeah, it's surprising. I've had a long career, you know, competing and getting in shape for shows, and I had goals I tried to reach. I think I accomplished that. I just want to be an inspiration to a lot of people out there. And I competed when I was 63 years old and won Mr. Universe again. So just want to be inspiring to other people.
So when you see those photos like that, what does that remind you of that young kid who came from where you came from and made something out of nothing, literally? Because this story is phenomenal.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Like I said, it's kind of shocking that, you know, you have a dream, you want to go to California, you want to be a world champion, and you kind of shut out your past. You just kind of look forward. You keep moving forward about what you want to achieve. And I look at those photos and sometimes I reflect, was that really me? I try to keep it humble, keep it real. But yeah, you know, I won Mr. Universe and Mr. World a few times. But it's not about bodybuilding, it's about life, you know, surviving. I'm a survivor. I don't know if you read my book, but you know, as a child, I went through a lot of trauma and family issues. So it's been a healing process for me to write the book, to tell the story, because for 40 years I said I'm never going to tell anyone about this, what happened to me growing up, especially when you get to California and it's a whole new world out there, a different world, and I'm from the deep South. So it was hard to relate to people. It was hard to find myself, and it took years to figure out who I was. And I think bodybuilding helped me to heal and open doors for me and gave me some inspiration.
So Terry, coming from the fitness world, tell them who you are and why this is important to our mind, body, and soul working out.
Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Marie. I'm in Sherman, California. I am an NPC competitor. I'm not a pro bodybuilder, but I did my first bikini competition at the age of 46 years old and won first place in my division. So I'm definitely like a late bloomer, but I just love the sport of bodybuilding because I think you could do this forever. I mean, I just love that the athletes are up there in their 60s and beyond. As for me, it's been a way for me. I've had trauma in my life too. I think a lot of us have. And bodybuilding's always been healing for me, and it's also given me something to challenge myself, to keep me accountable, if that makes any sense. But there's not one size fits all. I don't think for fitness, it's what you get out of it. For me, it's not the trophy. It's just more of like just getting on stage and, winning was just that extra piece, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I'm really excited to see your show, and it's a pleasure to meet you. And I want to hear more about your story. I'm really excited about it. But I am a big, obviously, fitness. I've been into fitness my whole life, so that's a little bit about me. And I've been with Brian since 2014. I also do celebrity interviews, and I'm also an artist and a businesswoman. So,
Wow, a lot of hats.
yeah.
Would you say that fitness keeps you driven?
Yeah, it does keep me driven. I actually am in sales, and I work in orthopedics. And a lot of the guys I work with are the salespeople, even ex-football players. We work with the NFL too, with our bracings and supports. So I'm even in the fitness world in that aspect of my life. I also work with physical therapists. I just really like helping people in the world of sports. It's, I don't know, sometimes when you see people injured, you just see this drive out of people to get better. Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, I lived it for this documentary.
Yeah. So it pushes you. I don't know whether it's if you're injured, like mentally, physically. I don't know. Fitness is always something to push yourself. If that makes any sense. Hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, Tony goes over it in the documentary itself as well, of how, the sport of, picking up a weight was literally kind of like life changing, and how it gave him a different mindset. And, Tony, you can obviously speak better to this, but I like this quote from the documentary where it's like, with an upbringing like his, it was like you could turn to drugs, you can turn to crime, you could turn to, but you don't have to do that. You could set your sights and do something else. You can be more productive. And Tony is a testament to just a very dedicated and strong mindset.
Yeah, you have a choice.
And Howard, tell them who you are, because for you it's all about dancing. Dancing is a different type of fitness, isn't it, Howard?
Yes, but I used to weigh 100 pounds heavier way long time ago when Atkins first came out, and I lost that 100 pounds and I never gained it back. I'm actually the same size I was when I was in high school, and I just turned 70. So I understand what you're saying. I mean, you can do anything you want to if you just want it bad enough. It's a muscle. And if you want to sing, if you want to bodybuild, or whatever you want to do, if you want it bad enough, you can do it.
You got to believe in yourself. You got to, have a strong will and strong mind, and really believe in yourself, because, it's the world is tough out there. So, you're fighting to survive, and to me, it's fighting to prove a point. You said I can, I said I will.
That's right.
That was my approach.
And nothing pleases me more than to prove somebody wrong.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I have a question. Like, sometimes I feel like a lot of people that are not in this sport don't really understand it. They kind of see it as a vanity thing. So I've struggled with people judging me on that before. What's your thoughts on that? If you encountered that.
Hey, Tony, talk about this. Talk about coming from that small town that you came from and just starting to pick up weights. That's an inspiring story right there. And I wanted to know more about that, because that wasn't easy.
No, I met a famous professional boxer, and he inspired me to get involved in fitness, doing something. I was a tiny little kid, so I said, but I was strong. So I made the wrestling team, and then, of course, I got injured. And then from there, my wrestling coach took me to a bodybuilding gym, and that's where I got hooked. And then the owner, the very first day, came over and says, I'm going to train you. So he took me under his wings, and he taught me a lot, and he pushed me really hard, and he taught me discipline, self-control, and mental focus. So I learned a lot coming up through the ranks. And then once I got to California, Arnold Schwarzenegger discovered me on Muscle Beach. So that led me to the Ben and Joe Weider's office. And I just took it from there. You fall in love with the sport. You got to find something that you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. So, because if you were having a rough upbringing, you got to find music, dance, sport, whatever it could be, that makes you happy and you're passionate about it, and that kind of saves you. It just motivates you, keep you inspired.
So Andrew, talk about this. I mean, obviously I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and I've seen a lot of great documentaries. Howard and I saw Gloria Gaynor. This film that you directed is right up there with that. And I also saw Mini Pro. And these films that I've been seeing, documentaries, have just been fabulous. What did you leave out about Tony that you couldn't fit in? It just might not have worked.
Yeah, so the documentary had a great foundation because it does start with Tony's memoir, Driven, My Secret Untold Story. And so that gave me, a great roadmap to choose what kind of highlights we want to, go into and what kind of topics we want to do. And so some of the stuff that we kind of left out were a little bit of, in each stage of his life. For example, when he was growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, we didn't really go into a lot of, his elementary school days. There were some parts of his high school days that we also kind of left out. Like, for example, when he got adopted out and he was in a foster kind of a home situation. We mention it, but we don't go too much into it because the important part of that sequence was him going to George Turner's gym, and that really propelled everything forward. So there's kind of missing part. Well, I would say missing. However, the book and the documentary really complement each other very, very well. So if you see the documentary and you want to know more detail, I would highly recommend going out and getting the book because it goes into a lot of detail of Tony's life, and it's super engaging. The way that it's written almost feels like a movie scene every single chapter. So you are engaged, you want to finish the story, and ultimately it's why I wanted to do the documentary, because of how engaging that memoir was.
So Tony, were you ready when Andrew came to you and said, we want to do a documentary about your life? Were you ready for that?
I was very surprised. I met Andrew and T through a friend that he would visit Vegas, and we would work out all the time together. And he brought his friend in, Steve, and Steve says, well, I know someone who owns a production company, and they might want to read your book. So I said, okay. That was not in my mind at all. So they read the book, and they said, we want to do this. And of course I'm excited. I mean, writing the book, that was the end of it for me. I said, I did my part. But to have this to come around was like, wow, it's amazing. And we went back to Memphis, Tennessee. I had to go down there and relive all those moments. It's funny how you keep everything inside, but it's still there. Then went to St. Louis and repeated it. So it was a tough trip. Who gets to go back and relive their life on the spot, on those moments, painful moments. But I'm thrilled that we got this done, and I watched it, and it was very emotional to watch. In fact, I had to kind of turn away from it. I just couldn't sit there and then take it all in. Very emotional, very, very touching.
What I'm doing is I'm relaying messages because it's so loud in here for Mamelia because she can't hear what you're saying.
But it's fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what I've been finding out about documentaries. And again, Howard and I was there to see Gloria Gaynor. That was an excellent documentary. I think the last 3 years, there's been some great films out there. I mean, Howard, I saw Mini Pro last night with Linda and her husband. Excellent films. And my hat goes off to you filmmakers because just perfect timing on anything. just to put this stuff out there for the world to see, because people need to see stuff like yours, like your story, Tony. They need to see what Andrew has put together, because it wasn't easy. And one of the things I've been telling the people about your story, and I'm going to talk about it on Friday inside of this panel, is when you go on the award show after you won, and all of a sudden the interview you asked you that one question, and you weren't necessarily prepared for the interviews or what comes after winning, were you?
No. No.
And but before you answer this, you weren't also. I mean, they weren't prepared for you, and I can only totally understand what you were probably going through, because not only did you deserve the accolades, you deserved everything that you did not get that you should have gotten and still deserve. Talk about that feeling, because after I saw that, that has not left me. When I'm around going to certain situations, and I talk to Terry about this sometimes, we can never change the color of our skin. So there'll be things that we may not be able to do that should be given to us because we work just as hard, if not harder, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, growing up in the Deep South, there was civil rights things going on, and it was very challenging. So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very challenging. So it was. I didn't have any answers for the questions, because I'm still in shock, and even today I'm like, oh my God, this is really happening. It's an honor for me. But like I said, I just wanted to write this story and share it with people, and then let them know that it's okay, that you're not alone, and because I always thought I was the only one, and people. I put on a very good front for many years, pretending to be something that I was not. So I just wanted to, free myself of that. A lot of people have issues that they don't talk about, or too embarrassed to talk about. But as a child growing up, there's no options. I had all the odds against me: the skin tone, civil rights, poor, you name it, I had against me. No family, no mom, no dad. But you just want to fight to survive. At 10 years old, I screamed out to God one day, why must I live through this? So as a young kid, I was very, intuitive. I knew there was God. I just wanted an answer. And it took him 40 years to tell me. The moment I started writing the book, I had my answer. It all came to me and said, okay, I got it. And I was writing it so fast that I said, this is not me. This is coming from a different place.
So now that we have some quiet in here, I'm going to have Morelia tell you who she is, because she comes from a well-famous family, not only from her dad, but she in her own right. Take it away.
Well, hi, how's everyone doing? I wish I could hear everyone, but my name's Morelia. Manuel's my father, who does all the couture clothing for all the entertainers and stars, and my grandfather was Nudie, the rodeo tailor. And what's so great, us being here at the Troubadour here in Nashville, we're seeing a bunch of old timers that have played here who've worn my family's clothes, which is a lot of fun. And so every once in a while you might see someone coming over who's introducing themselves to us constantly, but it's good to see you too, Terry. I haven't seen you in a while. And I'm just excited because this weekend with the Alice Award,
she's being honored from Alice Award, Terry and Howard. Wow. And I didn't know about that. And so for her to be an honor, that's a special thing because of who she is and what she's created.
And what I do in the community and also with the arts. I'm just so ecstatic. I'm up for an Alice Award, so Saturday it should be very exciting. I wish, well, Terry, you'll be here, right?
No, I can't make it.
She's coming, right? Oh, no? But Howard's coming, I think. So Howard will be in town. Howard's modeling in the fashion show the night before, though. If anything.
But it's one of these things where, again, my hat goes off to you filmmakers. I've been seeing nothing but good films from people. And Andrew, I don't know how hard it was to do it, but being with that production company with Vlad, I love the stuff that he does. Talk about the freedom that you get from doing what you did based on Tony.
Yeah, so we actually produced the film, aside from Generation Iron and Vladar films. And so it was us that actually went out and we did a lot of this production ourselves as Tequila Mockingbird Productions. It was only until we actually finished it, we actually won a film festival award, and they actually approached us and said, hey, we actually love this story and we would love to include it as part of our, our network of films and content that we offer. But yeah, it was a very tough and long journey. Like I said, 2.5 years just dedicating my life to crafting this whole story. And it was very difficult because, the very first few minutes, if you've seen the documentary, it's very dark. It's a very dark part of the film, a dark part of that story. And so, when you're dealing with, such heavy topics and I'm going to put Tony back into that headspace, that place, that's very difficult to do. But also you have to have an immense amount of trust in the person who's actually doing it. So that's where we led into, me and Tony having almost, weekly phone calls with each other just so that we can get to know, who is Tony? Can he actually teach me about the world of bodybuilding? Because I went into this knowing absolutely nothing about the world or the sport. I just knew that there was a good story to tell, but I didn't know anything beyond that.
Well, and a good story it was to tell because, again, as I'm out here, I'm talking about these great documentaries that people may or may not have seen yet. And the challenge is where it's going to be. So I always want to say, hey, find it here or look for it on the state. And I never stop talking about a good film. And for me, it may even seem like I'm talking about it all the time or too much, but I'm not. You can never talk about a good documentary too much. And Tony, this film is really, really good. And I want more and more people, whether you're in the fitness world or not, the story is about being inspirational. I mean, think about this. What's the chances of going to Muscle Beach and you're working out there for months and you don't have money to even go to Goals? And you might be going to Goals, and then all of a sudden Arnold is looking at you for months and you're not even paying attention. What's the chances of that happening? None. But it happened to you. Talk about that.
Yeah, I was working out there one day and he comes over and out of nowhere. It's all about timing, I guess, placing. I took a bus to LA and I just sat down in LA for 10 days and finally made it to the beach. So it was about timing. I said, I went to Muscle Beach to work out that day, and just by chance, Arnold was hanging out that day. I mean, the guy, he was trying to be an actor at the time. I'm sure he had a lot on his plate, but he took the chance and at the moment to come over to me and says, hey, I think you have a lot of potential. You train really hard. Let me take you through a workout. I'm going to send you to see Joe Weider. Tell him I sent you. So, I mean, that really, talking about inspiration, that's an inspiration. To tell, it was a messenger. He was like a messenger that you can do this. I had the best bodybuilder in the world to say that to me that I knew I could, because you need just one person, and God sent the best one on the planet. So.
And can you imagine just the string of like coincidences that Tony had to go through just to like end up on the path that he ended up on? Like Tony, there's a good story that you've told me. It didn't make it into the documentary. It's in the book. But the story of how you went on a bus, and because you don't know LA, that bus could have been going anywhere. But for whatever reason, it took you to Venice and where Muscle Beach was.
So sitting in that hotel for 10 days, I think I was waiting for the right bus. I ran out of money. I checked out and I walked to the next bus stop and I says, well, wherever it takes me, I'm getting on. And we went straight to Beverly Hills in direction to Muscle Beach. And I changed buses. And there was a guy in Beverly Hills sitting on the bench with a big afro back in the 70s. He says, hey, man, you work out. You got muscles. You need to be at Muscle Beach. So once again, a messenger. He got me on the right bus and took me straight to Venice. I go, what are the chances of that? The buses go all over, the Pasadena, the Valley, you name it. But I went to the right place. You're right. I didn't know anything about Los Angeles or California. Had never been there before. Had no friends there. It was just, I just said it was a divine intervention. And I knew leaving St. Louis that I had to get to California, and it had to be soon, very quickly. my instincts was telling me, you got to get to LA and now. So it's a crazy story. I start reading it and go, this really happened. Even for me to look back and say, wow. And it felt like I was in LA for a year, but it was only 2 or 3 months. And then Arnold discovered me. So it's, like I said, quick. Everything was quick moving. And then to go see Joe Weider, that was like, who gets to see Joe Weider in person? Nobody. He was like God. But when I said Arnold sent me, Joe came out of his office and gave me time, a few minutes of his time. And then I realized later, Arnold had a lot of power because no one gets to see Joe Weider. I mean, he was like God, the father of bodybuilding, him and his brother. So it just happened, and you can't control it. I had no thoughts of, I just wanted to be a bodybuilder. That's all I wanted to do. But I didn't know how to approach that, how to achieve that until Arnold said you could, and you will. And that stayed in my head. So when all the naysayers say you can't, I just remember back what Arnold said.
Aurelia was just saying that.
But I just love that picture when you're all like, you know. That's fantastic.
She hasn't even seen the documentary, and now she wants to see it.
I know, because he keeps on telling me things in between. And so how can we see that? Is it available online, or do I have to go somewhere specific? Or tell me.
Andrew?
So you're in luck because in 2 days, October 6th, Friday is when it drops everywhere. So Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Vudu, wherever you buy your movies, Driven is going to be on that platform.
That's why I bump people that have Tony on and you on, because that's right, October 6th, I said, I got to scrap it. This is too important. And I was telling Terry, you need to watch this documentary because, you know, Tony, she actually won at Muscle Beach. So the fact of having things like that.
Wow.
That was my very, very first show, and I competed the very first time at 46 years old. And I looked around, and I was like, I won my division over all the 22-year-old girls, and it was like the best feeling because like I just didn't know. I mean, I just went to do it to push myself, and my trainer and right now is Mr. California, Mustafa. I mean, and then he pushed me to do NPC. I haven't done a show for a while, but I'm getting the motivation to do it again. I kind of stopped competing during COVID because I didn't want to get on stage with a mask on. So, but now I'm back in the gym, and I actually, you know, want to inspire other women because I'm in my 50s now. Like, you know, it's never too late to get on stage. Even if, you know, at 55, go ahead, do it. You know, push yourself. You don't know what's going to happen. So, but yeah, Muscle Beach was my first show.
And with that, we got to talk about Howard, because Howard had his birthday not too long ago, and I just turned 63. But it's one of those things, as I think as we get older, that there's not a lot of things that probably stop us, or maybe we don't care anymore. But Howard could speak, because Howard, Terry, you didn't know this. We were out, no matter where we were, everybody was complimenting Howard. Now, he gets this all the time, but it's fascinating because he's the stylish one of all of us. I am not, he is. So just to see that happen makes me happy. And Howard, how old are you now?
70 years old. So, 70 years old.
Wow.
So,
Great.
Tony, when you got your Muscle Beast, did you do endorsements? Where did it lead past winning? Did you make a career out of it?
I made a career. I had a 20-year career. So yes.
Endorsements or what?
No, once you win, you know, some titles, you get a lot of seminars and exhibitions. So that's pretty much how I lived. Not too many endorsements. It was just about doing shows. Once you get titles, you know, people call you up, say, we want you to guest post, be the guest at this show, that show. And if you're in shape all the time, you get even more calls for it. So that kept me busy.
Too bad you weren't in one of Arnold's movies.
I know. It would have been nice.
Could have been the bad guy.
Bad guy.
Yeah, but you know who was friends with Tony there was Fabio, who was so massive in the 90s. And so Tony got to live a little bit of that Hollywood lifestyle anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he left in his house with Fabio, of course. Yeah,
that is a part that we unfortunately.
Well, that was interesting to see that. I forgot about that. Talk about the relationship with Fabio, because that was interesting. I would always hang out with Fabio at the restaurant in West Hollywood. he would just go there. We became friends, and he was always eating vegetarian stuff. I didn't realize he was working out then.
Oh yeah, he worked out a lot. So I was at Gold's Gym in Hollywood, training clients. I'm a personal trainer, and one day he just comes over and he says, "Hey, we should work out sometimes," with the accent. And I said, "Okay, all right, let's go, work out." And then we became really good friends. We trained every day, really super hard. I mean, a lot of heavy weights, and that's the mid '90s. And yeah, he was very serious about it. He's a great guy, very humble, very easygoing. He's from Milan with the accent, so he helped me a lot. He motivated me, and I guess hopefully I motivated him as well. But he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's still a good friend of mine.
Hey, Tony, talk about moving to Las Vegas, because when I moved to Las Vegas, I didn't tell anybody. I wanted to do it. It was less expensive. It was one of the things where I needed to get away. But and then I would come into Los Angeles for the things, and I would just scoop out because I needed that peace and quiet. I understand why you did that. Talk about why you did that, though.
It's exactly the same reason for me. I wanted some peace and quiet because I had a condo in Hollywood. So it's congested, and it's, hustle bustle every day. And I just wanted to go to Vegas. And I heard, I bought a condo over here. It was inexpensive in those days. Peace and quiet in a different gym. I'm a pretty much a loner. So I was tired of Gold's Gym. I just wanted to go find a private gym somewhere and just train myself. And I'm a bodybuilder, but I'm not really a bodybuilder in that world. You know what I mean? I can separate the two. On a daily basis, I'm just a normal, average guy. And in the bodybuilding gym, it's like you live it every day. It's too much. And I wanted to get away. And this guy named Sean Ray, he had a condo here. And he said, "Hey man, you need to move to Vegas." I didn't know anyone in Las Vegas. It's not true. I knew one lady in Las Vegas, Diana Dennis. She was a professional bodybuilder. She won some pro shows with the ITV. I did mixed pairs couple competitions, and her partner would compete against me and my partner. So that's one person. I stayed at her house for a couple of months, and I fell in love with Vegas. It was quiet, peaceful. The gyms were great. It has like 6 Ghost gyms here, and it's very close to LA. If I need to get back to LA and back and forth, so yeah, LA was fun. It was lots of fun, but I just as I got older, I just want to settle down, disappear for a while. I was known to be, "Where's Tony?" No one knows where I was, in Europe somewhere. I always seem to disappear.
But that was good because it's also about hiding and just having your seclusion. I get it. I understood it. And I love seeing that. Let's take a look at this trailer.
Okay.
When I was 10 years old, I asked God, why must I live through this? Somehow this instinctive thing inside of me was just dying, fighting to live. The last time I was on stage in Las Vegas in 1984, competing. The title is worthy. It's motivating to come back. And the AAU is when I won Mr. America in 1978, so the AAU is back. At 63, it's not going to be easy. But mentally, I have a picture exactly how I want to look.
I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, 1957. I went to high school in St. Louis, Missouri, before I made my way to California, Muscle Beach. I became a professional bodybuilder. I won a few world titles.
That's not the whole story. How everything turned against me. The whole world turned on me. I don't know why. I go, why did you fight so hard?
So I'm not going to be able to hear you, but she will now. Tony, talk about this. I love the comparison to Michael Jackson. Let's talk about that. Why is that? And then Andrew, follow that up, because that makes it interesting when you see some of the photos with him. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can see the resemblance.
So I went to the Weeder's office to do an article for Muscle Builder at the time with Ricky Wayne. He was the writer there, and he was taking notes. He's sitting across from me at the table, and I had my nose done. I had my nose fixed, So he kept looking at me and I'm going, why is Ricky staring at me? And then he said, you know, he stopped, he put the pen down and goes, you look like Michael Jackson. And that took off that moment. He says, I'm going to include that in the article. And then you pick up the magazine, you know, the Michael Jackson bodybuilding, and it just exploded. So I took up on it, says, okay, I'm going to go all out with the hair and the glasses and the makeup and the dancing and did the whole thing, the whole show.
Yeah, one thing that I learned on the way was how important the magazines were to the bodybuilders, how there was such a strong tie in the same sense that, you know, social media right now is what the magazines were back then. If you didn't get that publicity, you would most likely not win a competition because people didn't know who you were. They would just judge you based on your body, but you needed a name and you needed some sort of hook to get people in. And, you know, Michael Jackson of bodybuilding, Michael Jackson with muscles. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to see that? That's interesting. That rolls right off the tongue. You just want to know more about that.
Hey, talk about this. It was also one of those things where imagine what you would have been like if you had social media and you were good at that. What do you think would have happened? This is kind of like more Morelia's question, but that came to my mind as I'm like, I wonder what it have been. Because you have to be good at both now. And Sean Ray, we like Sean Ray when we get a chance to see him.
Sean Ray, yeah. Sean Ray, you talking about Sean Ray, bodybuilder? Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. Yeah, you're right, Andrew. You had, if you're not in the magazine, you're nobody that month. So I remember every time skimming through the magazine really fast to see if I made the magazine, an article or whatever, the picture. And if you didn't have a name, you know, you go into competitions, a lot of competitors and very tough competitions those days, and you're just not going to win. You know, I think the judges look at the magazines too, see who's who. And no matter what type of condition you're in, it's still challenging to win. So that was the Bible. You had to be in that magazine and hopefully a nice article about you. So the Michael Jackson thing helped me a lot because, like you said, it's about, you know, presentation, showmanship. So I took that and said, okay, I'm gonna be a performer on stage. I became more of a performer than a bodybuilder. And you have to be in good top condition all the time. It's a lot of work. People say, oh, bodybuilding, what they see on stage is the finished product. They don't see the 9 months starting, dieting, sacrificing, in pain, training till you throw up, pass out, who cares? So they don't see that part. But when you get on stage and the light just smiling, just go through your routine. And,
see, this is where I relate to Tony, because you don't see all of the drama and all of the tears and the late nights of putting together a movie. So it's very similar in that way. I also feel like we got a really cool part of bodybuilding history with the 1978 Mr. America. I would argue probably one of the more contentious competitions, and that was in part, and without going too much into it, but it was in part because Tony didn't get all of that publicity that we were just talking about, and his main competitor, his main rival, got all of the magazines. He was everywhere. He was the name. And so I really felt like that was the section of the documentary that, whether you liked bodybuilding or not, whether you knew anything about the sport, I was going to put you back into that audience and show you why people love the sport, why they love cheering for this.
Morelia was just telling me, and I forgot about this because her dad's made all kinds of things. Her dad made a couple things for Michael Jackson, which she'll tell you about. All right, so talk about that, and then after that, we got a couple minutes left. Tony, talk about what you're most proud of after Morelia tells us. Go ahead.
Well, I was so intrigued as I was getting a chance to get to listen, and when he said Michael Jackson, I go, well, my dad was also part of the creator of the glove, if I didn't know if you knew that. So, and he did clothes for all of the Jackson 5, and it was just a lot of cool typical days back in those days when who was coming in and everything that we worked for. So I totally understand, the history and the vibe and getting out there and getting your name out there. So
Your dad also created the mask from the Long Ranger, so you can imagine what
so image
what
was
has been
everything.
done.
And creating an image to be remembered, and that's exactly what he's doing too in his sport, and knowing the history of the sport and creating the image and getting people to see you and so forth. That's like you were talking earlier with, not having social media, but actually, getting on the magazines, and so people are curious to know who you are, and having that stamina of having a popularity of comparing to the Michael Jackson, all that's just so cool. I totally get it.
Tony, what are you most proud of when you look back at this now?
I'm just honored to have this film made of me. It's like I said, when I watched it live on the big screen, I'm sitting there going, "Is that really me?" So yeah, it's a thrill. I mean, I couldn't even imagine this happening. Winning the shows, I said I'm going to work hard to win the shows, which I did. I'm proud of that. I mean, it was an accomplishment, but I'm even more proud that I found the courage to write a book. So that's my way of helping people, or giving back, or letting them know you can achieve anything you want in life. You just have to have the desire and the discipline and be patient, and block out the naysayers. It's a lot to be proud of. I'm so honored that, they made this movie about me, and I'm in shock still. So I wanted to write the book to say to people, hey, I know we all have issues, and that you can overcome that, and you don't have to be, doing drugs, because people drink and do drugs to escape their pain. And I wanted to face it, straight on. And the weight training helped me a lot. I think I was happy in that place. That was a happy place for me to go, even though the training was brutal, but I was still happy. I was always smiling. I was always up for the second workout per day, every day. I was relentless. Nothing's going to stop me once I got started. But then again, I'm honored that Arnold was the one that said, hey, you can. We didn't talk about Muhammad Ali, but, he was the first major star, big superstar that I saw that got me into the sport. I was walking down the street one day, and once again, here we go. I'm walking down the street out of nowhere, and Arnold's getting out of the limousine. Muhammad Ali. And I ran there as fast as I could to get to his limousine. The door opened, he steps out. So I'm 13 years old, maybe. I'm looking up at Muhammad Ali, and I just knew I had to find sports. I had to do something. Escape my childhood too. And he was soft, all muscles, and that was a day that changed my life. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to see this. I thought it was the president of the United States. But the champ steps out. It was 1973, 72, so he was the current champ. And
Hey, we got a couple minutes left. Howard, let's talk about this real quick. Talk about Gloria Gaynor since you were there. Talk about what that was like to meet her and why that documentary was iconic, because I'm tying all of this stuff together. All of you guys are icons of what's going on with stuff. But not enough people have seen it because some of the stuff is not out. It comes out next year, but I'm tying it all together ahead of time. And Andrew, don't worry, I'm not going to stop talking about this. And Tony, we can't ever stop talking about you. You know what?
I really related to Gloria Gaynor because she's reinventing herself at age 80. And she's got a new gospel album out that is absolutely fantastic. I don't normally listen to gospel music, but I loved her gospel music because it was really upbeat, great voices. She has a lot of accomplishments. Is that the right word? Where they compliment her to sing, that were fantastic talent that I don't know who they are, but they were equally as great as she is. So I'm sure it's going to make a lot of stars in this new gospel album. And I like what she said. Everyone, she gave Brian some advice. Everyone should try to be the best person they can be, no matter what their age. Live your life to the end until it's all over. It's not, I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing. You're going to have to carry me with the disco music to the grave or something. I don't know, because I enjoy my life, and really the latter part of my life, I've enjoyed every bit of my life, but the latter part has been more fun in the sense that I really don't care what happens. I mean, one way or the other, if it's successful or not, I'm having a ball, and that's what counts to me. So.
Hey, Howard, talk about this really quickly. We got about 4 minutes left, or 3 minutes left. Tony, for me, you are that survivor too. So Howard, he fits into that world of we will survive. I was just thinking about that. And then for anybody who knew the history of Minnie Pearl, you just knew about her. Terry, she comes in to be the first woman of branding with her hat and howdy. Yeah. Who would have known? The things you find out when you're here in Nashville. Right, Maria?
She had the price tag that hung on her hat. That's how she would always go, howdy!
The filmmakers I've been meeting, my hat, like I said, my hat goes off to you guys. You guys are doing a fabulous job, and keep up the good work when it comes to this. Andrew, last words. Again, how can people find this movie coming out Friday, and what do you have coming up next?
Yeah, so you are going to want to go to Apple TV. You can actually pre-order the film right now. Go to Apple TV and search Driven, the Tony Pearson story. October 6th, it's going to go everywhere, all digital platforms, so Amazon Prime, Vudu, wherever you get your movies. Tony, the Driven, the Tony Pearson story is going to be there. Coming up next is a lot more promotion for this movie. We're actually going to be taking it to a couple more bodybuilding competitions to try to keep the hype going up with this documentary. If you like documentaries and human interest stories about strength and inspiration, this documentary is for you. If you are a bodybuilder or you're into fitness, then this is one of your foundational documentaries that you need to know for, even starting out historically, knowing where this sport came from.
And don't forget social media links too.
Oh, of course. So you can search up Driven, the Tony Pearson story on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram at Director Menji. You can also follow our production page, Tequila Mockingbird Prod on Instagram.
Tony, inspirational for the audience. What do you say? And your social media links so people can follow you.
Inspiration, just believe in yourself and stay focused and be determined and just keep, be driven. Nothing can stop. Nothing will stand in your way. You can get me on IG, Tony Pearson 87, the Michael Jackson page on Facebook, Tony Pearson, Michael Jackson. That's about it. Those two.
Terry Marie?
You can find me on Terry Marie Nonstop on all platforms, and then my website is terrymarieofficial.com.
Howard Wiggins.
Howard Wiggins Facebook, and Brian puts me on Instagram with my dad.
And Howard, what room are you in? What are you wearing real quick?
I'm in the upstairs hallway, and just
I love it. Have you been to his house? It's amazing.
Not yet. I'm coming. I'm going to Howard. I'm going to your house before I leave. I don't care. And Morelia, social media links, how people can find you and whip tickets this weekend.
Oh yeah, Morelia Cuevas on Facebook, or Rhinestone Heiress Facebook, Instagram, Rhinestone Heiress, and Rhinestone Air on Twitter or X, or what's it called? I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
And all those film lovers, please come out and support women in film and television, Southern Women in Film and Television here. She gets her award, the Alice Award, Saturday night. Yes, and we'll be speaking on the panels either Friday and Saturday. And I guess I'm a moderator now. I didn't see that one coming. They almost asked me to be a keynote speaker. I can't do all of this stuff. But anyhow, it's about promoting these films. So I always say this. Tony, thank you for coming on. You're welcome to come back anytime. We can never stop talking about you and your career. Andrew, I want to see what your next project is because I couldn't hear what it is. But I'll hear it tomorrow when I play it back. And I'll be talking about this on the panels Friday and Saturday. And so I always say this. Thank you, Howard. See you soon. Terry, see you when I get back to California. Have a good night tonight, a better day tomorrow. If you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. Right, Tony? Right, Andrew?
Yes.
I'm Brian Sebastian. This is
Absolutely.
Movie Reviews and More, and we will see you next
time.
week. And now we're on the Country Box because,
Yes.
Terry, we got more stuff to promote now.
We got
Who would have known?
We got people being beat up behind us, everything.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Ding ding.
Thank you.